Deep inside a dead and empty place stands the demon's home, a giant castle built right into a scary, evil smile. The dark corridors stand as a grim warning to anyone who ever tried to fight its master. Sitting alone on a lonely throne, a mighty figure thinks about the 100 years that have gone by since his last real battle. This is Belmont, the demon king who has spent 1,000 years getting tired of fighting heroes who aren't good enough. He remembers the fire wielder from a century ago who died in a strange way, frozen by a blaze of ice. 10 years later, the water hero stood no chance against the sea's boiling rage, just like the wind hero was swept away by a murky hurricane a lifetime ago. Even the earth hero from 50 years ago was simply swallowed by the very ground he commanded. Since that day, his empty throne room has stayed quiet, with no new challengers brave enough to step forward. Finally, after a long wait, a new hero steps up to face him head-on. The hero bursts onto the scene and easily knocks out one of the Demon King's best warriors. Belmont just laughed at her, making fun of her for daring to challenge a master of every element. She laughs off his empty threats and steps up to see just how long his confidence will hold up when it counts. After the words are spoken, the hero flies through the air to land the first hit of their old fight. Their epic battle rages on for 7 days and 7 nights, a true clash between giants. At last, the hero falls to the ground, looking utterly beaten and drained. Just as Belmont thinks he has won, a strange power suddenly grabs him and steals his strength. He fights back hard against the strange, unknown magic, totally confused by how it works. Feeling strong again, the hero pulls her secret weapon out of the bag, a special way called the cultivation of yin and yang. Finally, the legendary hero Arya fell the demon king who had ruled without rival for 100 years. 50 years later, the city that once terrified everyone has turned into a favorite spot for visitors. The tour guide beams with pride as he shows off the fortress, now a museum called the Demon's Capital. The fresh new generation, buzzing with excitement, can't wait to meet the legendary heroes from the past. The Imperial Knight jokes to his little crowd that history is something to look at, not to touch. Inside, the children are frozen in awe as their favorite epic story finally comes to life before their eyes. Right in front of them stands the frozen remains of the mighty Demon King who once ruled. M reveals that this isn't just a statue, but the real Demon King trapped inside stone forever. She says this piece will last forever because of the amazing hero, Arya. Arya's statue now stands as a cool symbol of heroism that the children look up to. As the tour goes on, a single maid quietly watches over the silent halls of history. Guide M suddenly recalls a fun fact to share with her audience. To show what's up, she suddenly snatches the horn right off the maid who didn't see it coming. M says that because the hero showed mercy, demons and humans are finally living together in peace. As the maid panics, the knight treats her like a living display to show off his tricks. M gives the demon maid a light push, sending her crashing to the floor. She kept talking, saying their magic was locked away so they could never hurt anyone again. She sweeps past the humiliated maid to lead the tour, but a hateful glare follows her. The kids' giggles bounce around while the maid quietly stands up again. But this maid isn't broken. She's just waiting patiently until tonight to break free. Without her knowing, the knight started to feel like something wasn't quite right. As night drops down, the Demon's Capital Museum turns into a secret spot for rebellion. A single demon maid stands in the moonlit hall, ready for her moment of revenge. She pulls out her secret weapon, a powerful potion made from the spit of a magical dragon. After 50 years of being treated poorly, she finally gathered the special drink that would give her strength. She looks at her frozen master and promises that today is the day he wakes up. With only one shot to make it work, she gets ready to swallow the forbidden magic. She gulped down the whole vial, feeling the forgotten strength rush back into her. A brilliant glow bursts from her body as magic surges through her veins for the first time in decades. As she whispers ancient, evil words, her sealed powers burst back to life. She throws a huge storm of lightning into the room, breaking the quiet with a show of amazing power. She pours all her fresh strength into one massive explosion. The lightning strikes right into the Demon King, who has turned to stone. The spell's powerful kickback throws her soaring across the huge throne room. Even the hard marble floor splits open from the sheer power of her landing. Tired but holding on to hope, she lifts her head, praying to see if her plan actually worked. A single glowing crack splits the stone, proving she succeeded. The statue cracks apart into 1,000 shards, freeing the spirit hidden inside. Tears of happiness race down her face as she cheers for her master's long-awaited homecoming. As the dust clears, a new shadow starts to appear in the light. But her joy is stopped when she looks up and sees not a king, but a small child standing there. The reborn Demon King wakes up, feeling groggy from what seems like a century-long nap. His faithful maid stands frozen in shock, too stunned to even question if that really is him. He stands with the confidence of a king, yet he has no memory of the woman standing before him. She immediately knows that this powerful aura and piercing gaze belong to no one else. She hugs him so hard she cries, overwhelmed with happiness, and tells him her name is Lehigh. The Demon King stands frozen, totally confused by the sudden hug. Suddenly, a flash from the past shows Lehigh not as he is now, but as a much younger version of himself from his memories. He pushes her away, and his confused look quickly turns into deep suspicion. Belmont wants to know who this fake person really is, and he points out several big mistakes in their story. She pleads with all her heart, saying that 50 years without magic has turned the demon race into something they barely recognize. For 50 years, she worked at various odd jobs while hiding her true identity, all in preparation for this single moment. Every struggle felt worth it just to watch the day her master finally came back to life. Belmont finally realizes that her look had changed because her magic was locked away. His mind jumps back to the hero Arya and the strange elemental magic she used to trap him. Lehigh shouts with pride that his bullying days are finally done because he's returned to lead them. But the Demon King crushes her dreams with one harsh word: I refuse. He brushes off her plea with a shrug, too busy hunting for fresh clothes to care. Lehigh is completely stunned and can't believe that saving their entire race could mean anything less than everything. After sitting on the throne for 1,000 years, Belmont finally admits he's tired of ruling and that living in peace sounds like a wonderful idea. Lei realizes they are so dazzled by his power that they forgot the Demon King is just a teenager by their standards. Desperate for a way out, Lehigh pleads with her master to explain the hero's sealing magic. Belmont scratches his head, trying hard to recall the name of that strange move. Lehigh leans forward, hanging on every word she hears while holding her breath. He showed that this secret art was a gentle dance of yin and yang, where two people shared their life energy to create something new. The maid's mind goes blank and her face turns a brilliant shade of red. Gathering all her bravery, she nervously asks what the experience was really like. He described it as a crushing, terrible pain that swallowed his whole body. Lehigh noticed that even the mighty Demon King couldn't figure out what was going on with that strange move. But their talk is suddenly stopped by a stranger hiding in the dark. Lehigh's eyes go wide with horror as she realizes the Imperial Knight before her is the same one she saw earlier that day. She struts in, sneering at the maid for the boldness of bringing the legendary Demon King back to life. Lehigh, heart pounding with terror, shoves her master behind her and screams for him to run to safety. But the knight rushes by too quickly, releasing a fierce wind that knocks both of them flying. Lehigh absorbs the entire blast, using her own body to protect Belmont. For the first time in hundreds of years, the scary Demon King actually cares about another person. Even though she's hurt, the faithful maid tells him to run while she stands her ground. M scoffs at their connection, bragging that her wind magic is more than enough to take them down. Belmont just chuckled, not impressed by her show, and he's about to teach her what real power looks like. He lifts his hand, ready to cast a spell that will finally teach the knight a lesson. Then it strikes him. After 50 years frozen as a statue, he has completely forgotten how to use his magic. The knight swings his sword, cutting a deadly wind to bring both of them down. A huge explosion blasts through the throne room, hurling Lehigh backward as she screams her master's name in fear for his safety. Belmont pushed himself up, grumbling that his new human body felt too weak to fight. M was right, and now the legendary Demon King is completely powerless. With a smug grin, she declares that a big promotion is definitely in her future. Lei cries as she apologizes, blaming herself for failing to hide the dragon's saliva. But Belmont is distracted, wondering if demons have always been treated like trash. Lei confesses that even though a peace treaty was signed, it was just empty promises on paper, because many humans still hate their kind and refuse to accept them. Belmont sneers, knowing that the so-called peace was never going to last. He looks at Arya's statue and realizes that even a legendary hero couldn't build a perfect world that lasts. Lehigh jumps up to defend him, casting a shield of human magic she had secretly learned. The knight sneered at the feeble spell and vowed to haul both of them right to the authorities. Belmont realizes his sacrifice meant nothing, so he declares that his magical nap is finally over. He frantically tries to call upon his old elemental powers, but they refuse to wake up. Suddenly, a strange new energy crackles to life inside his powerless body. His eyes go wide with shock as he realizes the strange magic is the very same spell Arya used to lock him up. A fresh plan takes shape, so he shouts to his faithful maid. Belmont grabs Lehigh, ready to use her as a channel for this new power. To Lehigh's shock, Belmont suddenly grabs him to start the power shift. A strong rush of life energy starts flowing between them. The loyal maid stands frozen with her mouth shut, stunned by her master's bold and risky move. Glowing energy flows from Lehigh and wakes the sleeping power inside the Demon King. Suddenly, a bright magic circle bursts up under them, making the old ritual even stronger. With the transfer done, Lehigh wipes away his tears and admits that his plan worked. Belmont feels the ancient magic he has carried for 50 years wake up inside him again. He finally gives a name to this power, the legendary art of cultivating yin and yang. From high above, the knight sneers and prepares to crush their final attempt, only for his wind blade to snap instantly under a massive blast of demonic power. Belmont glares with anger, ready to turn the Dark Knight into a pile of ash. He blasts a massive wave of fire that fills the whole hall. The knight steps out of the smoke, feeling beaten up and stunned by this strange new power. Belmont shows the hero that the magic comes from within, and admits that M is lucky to still be alive. M loses her temper, screaming in disbelief that a demon could actually use Arya's sacred technique. The Demon King calmly fixes her mistake, telling her that demons aren't what she thinks they are. The knight stands frozen, completely speechless and baffled by his simple words. The once proud knight falls to his knees, crushed by the overwhelming power and truth he just witnessed. Now that the fight is done, Belmont looks toward his faithful maid, who is so flustered she barely knows what to do. He vows to break the magic holding the demons down and set them all free. Belmont gives his first order: find a spot where there are lots of women. Lehigh's brain jumps to the wrong spot, leaving her completely flustered. He reveals his big plan: to borrow the hero's special power and bring back the glory of the demon race. Their path leads them to a city called Rose, which is funny because it is named after the hero it claims to have defeated. His old capital, now a crowded city where people buy anything they can afford, is full of life. Lehi guides him right to a neighborhood where every wish in his heart gets fulfilled. As soon as Belmont steps inside, he is instantly overwhelmed by a sea of excited women. They offer him a magical tea, yet the young Demon King stays completely unfazed. The snake woman leans in close, letting out soft, tempting whispers to try and sweep him off his feet. Even the cute slime girl begging for his notice can't make him crack his serious face. Lehi struggles hard to believe that all of this is for a good reason. A bold fox girl hostess challenges the Demon King to make his choice. Belmont calmly turns down the offer, leaving his loyal maid completely shocked. Lehi lets out a breath of relief, feeling proud that her master seems to be a truly good person. Her hopes crumble when he boldly claims them all. His bold ask throws the hostesses into a wild frenzy of joy. As he was dragged away, Lehi, furious at what happened, grumbled that men are just the same as he expected. Belmont's secret plan to fight back against elemental magic is finally shown. In their private room, one of the women playfully reaches for his hood to pull it off. As his demonic horns burst forth, the whole room falls into a stunned, quiet silence. The hostesses stop dead in their tracks, their friendly smiles disappearing right away. Belmont, still in the dark, can't figure out why the warm mood has suddenly frozen over. All he can do is stammer a confused "huh," while the women stare at his scary, demon-like face. Suddenly, their kind smiles vanish to reveal faces filled with nothing but hate. A sudden boom blasts Belmont and Lehi right out into the street. The fox girl sneers in disgust, realizing their most famous client was just a trash demon. Their smiles vanish instantly, replaced by anger as they forcefully kick the two out of their shop. Lehi scolds her master for expecting her to undress him, and he replies that he's just used to having servants do that for him. A mysterious demon woman shows up and laughs at the young king for being too naive. She drops a harsh truth. In this city, demons are outcasts forced to scavenge and sleep on the streets. The stranger speaks with cold anger, blaming the Demon King for their pain since he lost. Lehi jumps to defend her, but the woman sneers, calling 50 years of misplaced loyalty a joke. She sneers at Belmont, daring the quiet boy to fight her. But his sharp eyes freeze her instantly, sending a familiar chill that locks her in place. Belmont calmly asks which demons are allowed to live normal lives in the city. The woman is terrified, but she feels a strange, overpowering need to obey every word he says. She stammers that only the students from the hero school are safe and their big test is coming up soon. Belmont instantly declares they must go, leaving the two women stunned by his daring plan. The demon woman argues that a weak demon like her could never pass the hero's exam. Belmont just tells her not to worry about what happened in the past. He promises to fix the mistakes of his past self with his own hands. 2 days later, an academy official flatly turns them down, telling them they just aren't qualified. Their big plan suddenly crashes to a stop, leaving both of them completely speechless. The academy is packed with hopeful students, a sharp contrast to their own deep sadness. It just so happens that demons are kept out because a noble's guarantee is required to let them in. While Lehigh works on a new plan, Belmont throws himself into a rage, hating himself. The mighty king, now broken, calls himself nothing but useless trash and a shame to his family. But Lehigh spots this strange act and knows it means the legendary state of D has finally arrived. This cursed power, born from a shattered vow, belongs only to the demon king. She remembers a former king who ruined himself simply by living up to his own boast of taking 1 second too long to beat a hero. She even remembers a former king who once suffered the same fate because of a mere toothache. Lei knows that while she's in this trance, her master can only act on his basest instincts. But when she tries to help, the demon king pushes her away with a sudden, powerful shove. The push is so strong that Belmont himself slides across the ground. Lei can only stare in horror as her master is launched into the air by his own mistake. She sprints over to him just as someone else notices their trouble. A lively young lady was being scolded by her attendant, causing quite a commotion. Alice Roseth stood there with a look that said she absolutely didn't want to listen to her handler's orders. Her attendant insists she is too important to take the exam with ordinary people. In the middle of things, a sudden shock seems to have lifted Belmont straight out of his gloomy mood. Her attendant, Roy Suma, insists that the eldest young miss go home right now. But Alice explodes with fiery anger, screaming that he must never speak that person's name again. She throws out a flashy spell called the Phoenix, but in a stubborn fit, her big attack just fizzles out harmlessly around the comm guard. Royd calmly brushes her efforts aside, admitting that while her elemental magic is impressive for her age, it's stuck in the past. He brags that the general is no match for the elegant demon who guides him. He knows the magic before it hits him and dodges it with ease. He moves with easy skill, dodging every one of her magic bullets. But one of those blasts misses its mark and flies wildly off course. A wild bullet flies straight at the surprised demon king and his maid. Lehigh feels a cold fear wash over him as he realizes their little game has finally woken the demon king. Her eyes go wide with fear just as a flying fireball zooms straight at them. The attendant sneakily calls the fight done and laughs off his lady's futile struggles. He warns he'll drag her home for another fancy lesson on being obedient. Belmont steps right in and catches the bouncing blast, taking the hit without even flinching. The wild magic explodes with such power it shatters the street. From the crater, Belmont steps out fine and puzzled, trying to figure out where that explosion came from. Lehigh runs to his side, stunned that he took the hit meant for her. Little noble Alice just stood there, wide-eyed and speechless, as she stared at the strange boy. Belmont glares at the pair, warning them in a cold voice that they shouldn't drag others into their fights. Alice demands an apology, not knowing that Belmont has already started paying attention to her attendant. Lehigh notices her master's deep sadness, suddenly turning into a terrifying and violent anger. The young noble yells at the mysterious boy, telling him to stop. Belmont shoots an angry glare back, annoyed that yet another interruption breaks his rage. But his anger dies down when he looks at the girl, and a confused glimmer appears in his eyes. He spots a ghostly look-alike of the hero Arya staring back at him. Alice gets so mad at his intense stare that she demands to know what he's looking at. She charges ahead, driven by the need to rescue her servant from the attacker's hold. The instant her hand brushes his shoulder, a strange energy jumps between them. Suddenly, a strange surge of magic shoots through her, leaving the noble girl frozen and flustered. Alice feels completely washed away by a strange and powerful feeling she has never felt before. Belmont suddenly feels a shock as he realizes the flow of yin and yang has finally started. The old magic suddenly bursts into life in his hand, spinning wildly without him being able to stop it. A wild rush of life force is about to crush them both. Their touch turns into a dangerous surge of wild energy, but Lehigh jumps in between them to take the chaos and protect them both. The first thing the faithful maid thinks about is her master staying safe. Belmont calms her down and tells her exactly how the hero's magic was accidentally set off. Lei quickly tells everyone that the girl is actually a descendant of the hero Arya. Alice shakes off her shock and demands to know who these strange visitors are. Belmont moves forward, closing the gap between himself and the hero's descendant. He looks up at the young noble, his face a mystery as he takes her measure. Alice looks straight into his eyes and sees a strange sense of knowing each other, even though they are so different. The Demon King strikes a strange pose, comparing her look to a memory from 50 years ago. But a quick look in his mind shows she's not the hero he used to remember. The panicked noble lunges at him, shouting for an answer to his odd actions. Lehigh quickly whipped up a wild excuse about demons recognizing people in unique ways. Alice sets the argument aside, reminding them that they're still not allowed to take the academy exam. Beaten down, Belmont and Lehigh try to make a clumsy run for it, but Alice blocks their way and demands to know how he managed to use that forbidden magic. Alice sees that the boy didn't just get lucky. He found a gap in her guard's perfect shield. As Belmont gets ready to show his secret, Lehigh panics and begs him not to reveal what they really are. He turns away from her, speaking in riddles to say that Alice holds a special power unlike any other. Lehigh's eyes go wide with fear, convinced her master is about to show he is the Demon King. Instead, he claims she is the daughter of a charming demon, telling such a wild lie that it almost feels like a clever trick. Lei lets out a breath she didn't know she was holding, amazed by how her master stays sharp when things get tense. The noble girl is totally confused, wondering just what kind of charming demon could possibly exist. Alice begins rattling off some embarrassing details about the demon, which makes Belmont turn red and tell her to stop. Switching the topic, she admitted that even though they were weird, they did help her out. She says her family always taught her to repay kindness, so she feels a reward is coming for their help. They head to the Holy Belmont Great Hero Academy, a funny name since it's meant for fighting the very demon it shares its name with. The examiner is ready to begin the test, sure everyone has arrived, when Belmont and Lei suddenly burst in at the last second, refusing to leave until they're allowed inside. The official sneers, telling the two demons they can't get in unless a noble promises to take responsibility for them. Belmont coolly held up a sheet of paper and asked if that would be enough. His arrogant grin vanishes the moment he spots the famous mark of the legendary Rozeth family. Just as if the story demanded it, Alice walks right in to tell everyone she's taking the test too. The examiner was so stunned by the hero that he instantly changed his mind and practically begged them to come inside. So the demon lord, his maid, and the hero's heir stand ready to take over the academy. The crowd instantly hushed and gasped, stunned to see the noble Alice standing right beside demons. Lei feels the anger around her and knows their problems are just beginning. Just as they arrive, a self-assured cat girl from the Beast clan steps in to stop them. This is En, and she looks thrilled to see her rival, Alice, taking the exam. Alice isn't happy at all as she grumbles that the most annoying person has finally shown up, and jokes around that they've known each other since childhood, while Alice insists their bond is destined to bring nothing but trouble. The cat girl turns her gaze to Belmont and Lehigh, sneering as she asks if they are Alice's servants. Alice quickly tells her to back off and stay far away from the charming demon. But that warning only makes En's curiosity grow even stronger. En doesn't hesitate to grab Belmont right away, totally swept away by the thought of a male demon who knows how to charm. Lehigh is totally puzzled why the hero's magic didn't kick in when the cat girl touched her master. En steps right up to him and boldly announces that she wants the Demon King to be her new pet. Alice, furious at their show of affection, shoves them apart and tells them to take their kissing somewhere else. The cat girl just laughs it off, teasing Alice for getting so serious about a simple joke. But before anyone could move, a new challenger, an elf girl, stepped forward and leaned in close to sniff Belmont. And fumes in the background, annoyed that someone else beat her to the punch. Alice's jaw drops when she sees the new person, and she clearly isn't happy about it. Rostana the elf turns her back on everyone else to gently hold the Demon King's face. She leans in with curious eyes to ask if he really is a charming demon. Belmont coolly plays along, saying the male is just a little bit special. Flustered Alice shouts at the elf to back off while trying to end the scene. Rostana ignores her, mocking Alice by calling Belmont just practice material and laughing at her family's power. And smirks, bringing to mind the mysterious hero pact from last year. Alice shouts with anger that her plans are all her own and have nothing to do with her family. Three heroes from legendary families face off with a rivalry that everyone can see. Belmont seeks answers from Lehigh, who reveals that they are the descendants of the three legendary heroes who once defeated him. The Demon King is confused and can only think of the legendary hero Arya. Lehigh says that even though Arya's group only had 4 people, her big name caused a deep, lasting resentment. Suddenly, a huge beam of light shoots up from the academy, showing that the exam has begun. The 3 rivals stop arguing and lock their eyes on the challenge waiting for them. A mighty person suddenly appears out of nowhere, wrapped in crackling energy and a glowing, intricate magic circle. Edward the Examiner is here to welcome the new hopefuls. The crowd buzzes with excitement as they recognize his powerful magic. Lehigh starts to feel scared, knowing their locked-up magic isn't strong enough to fight back against this powerful spell. Belmont tells her that the 2 cultivation sessions caused an unexpected side effect. He announces that some of his elemental power has already started to wake up again. A bright mark appears on his hand and hums with wild, untamed power. The Demon King is about to push his half-restored powers to the breaking point. Lehigh shields her eyes, wide-eyed and stunned by the blinding glow of his power. Tears of joy stream down her face as she finally sees that her lord's true, terrifying power has returned. But his grand display of power is nothing but a pathetic little spark, much to Lehai's dismay. He admits he can barely hold onto the magic once it leaves his body, with almost no real control left. The shaky energy fades away fast, showing just how weak he really is right now. Lehai sighed in despair, knowing his pathetic power level wouldn't be enough to pass the exam. The Demon King stares ahead, totally unaware until his maid suddenly grabs his arm, pulls him close, and stares at him with a serious face. Lei pulls him in for a tight hug, leaving the young Demon King completely confused. He presses her for an answer, feeling completely thrown off by how close she is. She pulls out another vial, the same life-giving potion she used to bring him back. Lehai knows this powerful but short-lived boost is his only chance to pass the test. Belmont casually tosses the precious elixir aside, leaving everyone completely baffled. He flatly rejects the power-up, leaving his maid in desperate confusion. As he turns and walks away, the Demon King starts to tell the story of why his heart has suddenly changed. With a smug grin, he declares that passing an exam by cheating is just not right. Lehai's jaw dropped to the floor as he stood completely stunned by this new feeling of honor. She screams at him to remember that everything their race depends on hangs in the balance of this test. Belmont stops to think about what she said, then looks at you with a very serious face. The loyal maid looks up, startled by the sudden fire in his eyes. He declares that even without his old strength, the demon clan is still a force to be reckoned with. With a steady hand, he promises her he'll pass the test exactly his own way. Lehai is totally convinced now and admits she was wrong to doubt her master. She hides the magic drink away, proving once more that she believes in the only true demon lord. Suddenly, a mysterious hand snatches the vial right out of hiding. Lei is shocked and can't believe her lord would break his own promise. Belmont just shrugs, just as confused as everyone else about what just happened. Suddenly, a magical portal tears open in the wall to finally show who really stole everything. The loyal maid lets out a desperate scream as the forbidden elixir is snatched away right before her eyes. Her scream wakes the Demon King, who spins around to face the surprise visitor. Edward walked through the portal, looking anything but happy. He spots the forbidden items and wonders who is so foolish to try to cheat him out of his watch. Edward quickly rules out the culprit and has her name taken off the list. A strong spell traps Lei, and she screams as the magic around her grows stronger. She gets pulled into a twisting whirlpool, screaming for her master to come and save her. Belmont can only watch in horror, screaming her name as she fades away. The examiner walks back to the crowd, calm and reassuring them that he only kicked out a bad demon. He sneered at the shame of a demon trying to cheat its way into the great exam. Edward smugly shouts that it's no surprise they're called the Clan of Disappointment, and the whole crowd, even the hero's own family, jumps in to mock them. Belmont stays quiet, his face hidden in the dark while he burns with cold anger. The examiner turns his attention to the young demon, boldly daring him to speak up and stand with his friend. Belmont stares with icy anger, promising to force the examiner to beg for forgiveness for what he said. Edward rolled his eyes at the demon's boldness, asking what is wrong with punishing a cheater. The Demon King makes it clear that this isn't about cheating at all, but rather a grave insult to his faithful maid. The examiner pushed his point hard, calling Belmont a disgrace who is only there because of Alice. Ignoring the demon entirely, Edward focuses his magic to officially start the exam. Suddenly, a bright flash of light whisks all the candidates away with a powerful spell. Suddenly, they find themselves back in a bizarre new spot, a huge cliff that looks like a giant dragon's wing. The hopefuls stand frozen in shock as they realize they are standing on the legendary Dragon Wings cliff behind the academy. Ahead of them waits their first test, a long, narrow bridge stretching out toward the main academy building. Edward says the test is easy because all they need to do is walk across the bridge to the other side. He points to a huge bridge made of light, the only way across the dangerous gap. The examiner says the only goal is to get across to the academy on the other side. But the candidates feel uneasy, then a spell kicks in, and they realize they've been tricked. Edward reveals the catch. Only the first 100 to cross in 30 minutes will make it through. He throws his arms wide and shouts that the first trial is finally underway. Suddenly, all the brave heroes rush wildly onto the shining path. But as they sprint, a strange vibe from the bridge makes everyone jump to attention. Belmont looks at the smooth surface with a calm face, but he instantly feels that something dangerous is hiding beneath it. Then the ground vanishes beneath them and their feet start to sink into the glowing surface. The bridge turns into a sticky swamp that traps the scared candidates right in its grip. The hopeful candidate insists that crossing the bridge will be easy if we just keep our focus. The examiner smirks, showing that the bridge is made of sticky slime that catches anyone weak in magic. In an instant, dozens of hopefuls find themselves sinking deep into the slimy trap. If you can't master your element, you're trapped in place and can't move forward. Even the hero's own daughter, Alice, struggles in vain against the sticky surface. Her rival N walks past Alice with an easy laugh, making fun of her weak magic. The catgirl zooms off ahead, leaving a furious Alice to handle everything alone. Alice feels frustrated watching all the other descendants of heroes move through the trials so easily. The examiner casts a smug look at the disreputable demon, eager to see what happens next. Belmont is so overwhelmed by the situation that he can't bear it, though he isn't disappointed at all. The examiner sneers, convinced the demon's weak magic will keep him trapped forever. Belmont surprises everyone by swimming through the slime with perfect form. Edward freezes in shock as he realizes the demon's power is far greater than even the Academy's toughest teachers. The examiner isn't impressed, so he decides to make the challenge much harder. The other candidates aren't so lucky. They're stuck in the sticky trap, barely able to move an inch. Then the whole bridge suddenly wakes up and turns into a huge, scary wave of slime. Suddenly, the world flips upside down as the candidates are dragged into the sky by a wild, strange attack. Slimy tentacles burst up from the bridge and snatch a screaming student right out of the air. Even the mighty Demon King is shocked and caught off guard by this sudden, wild change in everything. The examiner shows his final trick. The whole bridge is actually alive and hungry. Edward gives a knowing smirk, explaining that this giant slime is a true challenge even for heroes who have fought many before. He uncovers a teleportation array below, but if you fail to cross, you're kicked out of the academy. But N isn't even bothered by the slime's slow grip, just laughing at how slow it is. She laughs at how weak it seems and decides it's finally her turn to take charge. The huge slime just stares in shock as the catgirl readies her move. She slashes right through the slimy monster with a fierce claw, tearing it apart like it's nothing. N lands with a smirk, playfully claiming that her size isn't enough to make her impressed. Meanwhile, the elf Rostana walks calmly onto the chaotic bridge. She stands calmly before the scary slime tendrils, showing no fear at all. With a soft click, Rastana shuts her eyes and readies herself to handle the danger in her own graceful fashion. Water magic swirls around her in a tight vortex, showing just how much control she has. The confused slimes just stand there, wondering what's about to crash into them. Their confusion quickly boils over into fury, but her magic freezes them solid in their tracks before they can do anything. Rostana brushes them aside as a minor obstacle and sends out a soft ripple of unstoppable force. With one graceful motion, she turns the whole slime army into frozen pieces. But one little bit of slime flies away, slipping right past her perfect strike. A wild vine leaps toward a screaming student who has no choice but to beg for rescue. As Alice steps in to help, her hand sparks with the burning power of a phoenix. She lets out a massive burst of fire that burns the slippery enemy to ash in an instant. The hero's daughter easily saves her rival, showing she has what it takes without even getting tired. The saved student stammers her thanks, totally amazed by what Alice just did. Alice coolly waves the slime away, saying it was just getting in her way. Her face betrays her anger as she fumes over this silly test. The examiner sneers, impressed by the hero's look and sure the demon kid is about to fail. He watches the slimes with a smirk, convinced that Belmont's weak power can't possibly hurt them. His arrogant grin vanishes instantly when he sees something totally impossible. The Demon King sat atop a giant slime while a huge crowd cheered and worshipped him. He gently pats the creature, whispering a few calming words in its own language to ease its fear. Edward is stunned to hear the boy speaking the ancient slime tongue that no one has spoken for ages. He knows that taming such a beast needs a demonic strength that Belmont simply does not possess. Belmont flicks a smug glance over his shoulder while a glowing sigil rests on his tongue. The examiner sees that this is no ordinary spell, but the legendary blessing of speech. Edward figured out the little demon had spent all his tiny magic just to cast a huge spell. Not wanting to lose, the examiner decides it's time to make the challenge much harder. He reaches into his pack and pulls out a strange little bottle, preparing to give the slimes a shock they won't forget. The doxal slime monster, once calm, now roars with glowing eyes full of fresh rage. Dark, spiky tendrils burst from the beast and lash out at the Demon King. Belmont gets blasted backward when his new friend suddenly and brutally turns on him. He lands with perfect skill, ready to face the next wave of attacks. The whole bridge wakes up, writhing like a dark ocean of tentacles eager to attack. The slime monster melts into a shadowy nightmare, and its friendly face vanishes. Belmont knows this sudden boost isn't right, and suspects someone is cheating. The angry beast shoots out a wild mess of dark shadows to try and kill him right there. Stuck on the bridge, the Demon King realizes there is no way to run from the attack. The examiner leans back and smirks, just waiting to watch the trash demon get kicked out. But just in time, a sudden burst of phoenix fire stops the deadly attack. Belmont tenses up just as he gets pulled away from danger at the last second. The hero didn't expect his own descendant, Alice, to show up as his savior. She looks at the slime-covered demon with a rare face of worry. The Demon King freezes in shock, unable to believe his rival would risk everything just to save him. Alice stammers, completely caught off guard by his direct question. She quickly insisted the slime was just an obstacle, not something to worry about. The examiner glares in annoyance as Alice's meddling ruins his plans. He dives through a magical doorway into a gooey pool just to grab his booster. But the slime monster, now powered up and wearing a wicked grin, has other plans. It grows taller, swallowing up all the other slimy monsters on the bridge until it is huge. Belmont and Alice stand frozen in shock as the creature changes before their eyes. The examiner's plan goes terribly wrong when he loses control of the beast. He suddenly realizes with horror that his magic, which works in other worlds, can't touch the mutated monster. With no other choice, Alice taps into her full strength and steps up to finish this fight on her own. Her huge fire fizzles out and does nothing against the dark shape of the monster. Alice freezes in shock, realizing the slime has suddenly learned to stand right in her fire without burning. Belmont shows that the creature was fed a forbidden, corrupted substance, Python's blood. The hero's descendant just stares, totally lost because he's never seen that dark elixir before. He says it's a special booster that brings any creature back to just 1% of its strongest power. Alice freezes in horror as the Demon King reveals that the terrifying beast is barely scratching its surface, warning that these slimes can fuse their powers into something even more unique and dangerous. This terrifying beast was born when thousands of tiny slimes merged together into one giant monster. Another burst of fire hits the fused beast, but it just bounces right off. As the smoke clears, the slime monster steps out with an even creepier, wider grin. Alice boils with anger when her elemental magic fails completely, just like Belmont had warned. She snaps at him, demanding a real plan instead of his smug talk. Belmont speaks quietly and shares that he knows just the right move, and she is the missing piece he needs to make it happen. The impatient heir of the hero grabs him by the throat and demands he choke on his own power before they both get eaten by the monsters. He doesn't say another word, but instead, he steps forward and pulls the noble girl close. He suddenly pulls her close into a tight hug, his eyes shining with strange power. The hero's descendant stood frozen, dumbfounded by his sudden and daring action. He starts his plan with a sudden kiss that leaves the young noble speechless. The Demon King shouts that he is finally waking up the ancient power of yin and yang. Alice is totally blown away, her brain tripping out as the power suddenly jumps into her. A mighty rush of life energy pulses between the dark Demon King and the hero's young heir. He draws upon the forbidden magic, ready to unleash all its power. Even the slimy monster is dumbfounded by their wild team-up move. But Belmont suddenly feels a sharp shock when he realizes the ancient magic refuses to wake up. The hero feels nothing but pure rage now. Alice gets so angry with his tricks that she decides to show him just how strong she really is. She punches with such force that the whole bridge shakes and explodes. She lies in the crater and angrily scolds him for his bold move. After all the chaos of the day, the Demon King decides the scary part isn't the monsters, but that noble girl. Alice swallows her anger and shouts for reinforcements to save the mission. He stood up and told her in a cold voice that she would be monster food long before he came back. Angry at his harsh words, she kicks him hard and tells him to just die, but he grabs her foot and asks why she's so set on fighting by herself. She speaks with absolute certainty that a hero's true job is to keep the people safe. Her words freeze him in place, sounding exactly like the hero who sealed him away, and he can't stop wondering if he was ever truly included. Just as they find safety, a dark monster leaps out to strike them down. The hero is totally caught off guard when the sudden attack hits him. She instantly raises a huge magical shield to block the tendrils, but it starts to crack because her power isn't strong enough to stop the beast. With a sickening crack, the monster's shadowy tendril breaks through her shield, but Belmont shoves her aside to take the full force of the attack. The dark, shadowy whip smashes into the bridge, flooding it with a rush of black energy. He throws his body in front of the hero to block the blast, sending them both flying through the air. Alice coughs hard in the thick smoke, her head spinning from the blast. She screams in anger, demanding to know why he couldn't save himself when he tried to save her. The hurt noble says there is no time for him to act like a hero. Belmont questions her beliefs, wondering if a hero's job is to protect demons. His deep question leaves the hero's descendant frozen, unable to speak a word. He then makes a bold promise. He will pass this test and become a hero himself. Alice just stares, wide-eyed and confused, as the Demon King announces a goal so wild it leaves her speechless. Flustered Alice bursts through the tension and demands to know just how long he plans to stay on top of her. Meanwhile, the dark slime monster hovers above them, getting ready to attack once more. Alice panics because the bridge is now open for the attacks, but Belmont calmly points out they don't actually need to stop it, which leaves the hero completely baffled. He takes her hand and hushes her, urging her to focus on his wild new idea. She feels a strange tingling as all her magic pulls straight into her hand. Belmont smirks, impressed by her raw talent but noting her control is still weak. The noble girl just stares in shock, asking him what he did to her. He shows her how to use the power she's been wasting much better than before. Even without his full power, the Demon King claims he has more than enough to win. He stands tall and says that as the Demon King, he will always find a way to win. A burst of dark power explodes around him, making Alice realize for the first time just who he truly is. The shadowy slime monster lets out a roar, showing no fear at all at his big show. It dashes forward, ready to squash the duo with its huge, dark shape. Belmont pulls out his scary infernal demon gun and pours all his power into one hand to hit something really hard. His dark power slices through the beast like a giant sword made of pure rage. The beast is completely destroyed, its dark shape shattering into nothing. He throws himself in front of Alice to stop the blast, landing calmly right in the middle of the chaos. Belmont is shocked to find that the fierce fight has somehow brought his old strength back. Now that the monster is gone, the way to the academy is finally open. The other candidates stand nervously at the finish line, convinced the test is finally over. The examiner freezes in terror, fearing the Rousiath family will come after him once they realize Alice is missing. But a student's loud shout breaks the tension as a figure steps out from the smoke. Edward's face suddenly fills with hope as he barely dares to believe what he is seeing. He is so relieved that Alice is safe, but he is even more pleased knowing the annoying demon is finally gone for good. His jaw drops in shock when Belmont bursts through the chaos, holding the hero's heir in his arms. The examiner's relief suddenly flips into pure, unadulterated rage. Belmont calmly shouts that they won, leaving the tired nobles totally embarrassed. The crowd gasps and whispers in shock, unable to believe that the hero's own descendant is being held by a demon. Belmont clenched his jaw, knowing that even though he proved his strength, he was still an outcast. The hero's heir burns with rage in his arms, swearing revenge, while Belmont just tries to get through this dangerous moment. Edward claps for the winners to end the first round, but his grin twists into a sneer when he spots the Demon Clan's kid. The examiner immediately rules Belmont out, claiming he cheated on the test. The Demon King stands frozen, speechless, as people throw false accusations at him. The crowd instantly believes the lie, sure that a demon could never walk through the gate on its own. Just as Belmont tries to make his case, his rival jumps in to step in. Alice stands tall on her own, daring the examiner to believe that Belmont was right beside her the whole time. She finally admits that without him, she would have failed, proving he was innocent. The Demon King is surprised when she fiercely defends herself in a way he didn't expect. Edward brushes aside Alice's excuse and reminds her of the dark past of the Demon Clan. He gives her a lesson about the old Demon King, who once used his people's natural magic to take over the land. The examiner thanks her grandmother, Arya, for locking that king away and breaking the demon race's power. His eyes squeeze shut tight as he gets ready to drop his last, cruel word. Edward says that without their power, a demon like Belmont could only pass through by cheating. Without even looking at Alice, he steps up to cast a spell on the cheater to punish him himself. A huge wave of energy sparks all around him as he pulls his power together. The examiner's eyes burn white, waiting to pour out his judgment on the young demon. But Belmont cuts through the showboating with a perfectly timed punch right to his face. The crowd stood frozen in shock, watching the examiner hit the deck. Belmont looms over the fallen official and shouts that his whole case is just a wild guess. The examiner grabs his face and screams in shock that a student actually hit him. The Demon King's eyes blaze with a scary warning that his only reason for joining the academy is to save the man's life. From the crowd, Rostana sees how he controls everything, even though his demonic power looks weak. She is stunned to discover that he can even stop another person's spell while they are casting it. The battered examiner stumbles back to his feet, furious that a small demon kid would dare to stand up to him. Suddenly, a new voice breaks through the tension, laughing at the strange student they've just discovered. A strange woman steps into the light and says she will personally entertain the young demon. The whole crowd gasps in shock to find out the powerful new arrival is the academy's principal, who ignores the scene to warmly greet Alice and notice how much she has grown. The battered examiner begs the principal to let him clean up his own mess, but the powerful woman shuts him down by calling him just Edward. She calmly tells the stuttering official that she'll handle it from here. The principal fixes her terrifying gaze on young demon Belmont, and Grand Magister Karen Lin gets straight to the point by asking, "Did you cheat?" Belmont feels the crushing weight of being the youngest principal in history. Even Alice is left speechless by the Grand Magister's powerful spell, but the Demon King just stares right back at her, refusing to admit he did it. The principal accepts his answer with a mysterious smile and nods for him to follow. In a sudden flash of light, she vanishes with them into a vast, mysterious hall. Suddenly, the teleportation throws them right to the ground, leaving Alice so dizzy she doesn't know where she is. She glances around the towering, strange room, wondering where the principal has taken them. They stand in a huge hall filled with dark, watching shadows. The quiet council members sit in the dark stands, their faces unseen. The principal smiles confidently, welcoming them to where the real power lies. She steps forward to introduce herself as Karen Lin, the head of the academy and its top council. To show they are worthy, she says they must now face one more challenge. Belmont and Alice are both completely confused by this sudden, unexpected problem. Alice instantly argues back, shouting that they just passed fairly and asking why they have to be tested again. The principal calmly tells them the simple reason they both broke the academy's rules. The principal tells us that this school's only job is to train heroes strong enough to beat the Demon King. Then she mentions the secret rule that keeps demons away and limits powerful families to just one student per generation. Alice clenched her jaw, seething in anger because she'd been caught out by a sneaky loophole. But Belmont calls her bluff, daring her to explain how an unspoken rule can really count as a rule. He stands tall and declares that the only rule that counts is the one written down, so go take the test and step right inside. His brave refusal sparks a wave of quiet gossip among the Dark Council members. A frantic Alice tries to hush him, sure he'll get them both kicked out. The Dark Lord just waves away her worry, insisting he's only speaking the truth. The amused principal gave in and promised their special test would be easy. She asks the first hard question of all, why do they really want to join the academy? Alice stands tall, declaring that she will be a hero who guards people, just like her grandmother Arya did. The principal then looks at Belmont and asks about his own big dream. Belmont stands tall and declares his mission, to bring an end to the hatred aimed at the Demon Clan. His words make the dark group erupt into a wild shouting match. But the principal just chuckles, completely unfazed by their anger. She finds it hilarious that a hero and a demon savior are working against each other. The principal finally admits she's so curious now that she can't wait to see what kind of future they'll build together. With a quick wave of her finger, she starts their special test. Suddenly, two glowing rings of light hover above their heads. She shows that these legendary smashing rings were made by the hero Arya herself. The principal tells us that only the stronger of the two will be chosen by the ring to become the hero. Belmont instantly wonders what happens to anyone who can't pass the rings test. She states with cold indifference that the loser will be stripped of their power and put to death right then. Alice freezes in horror as she realizes this special test is actually a fight to the death. Belmont laughs at her lack of knowledge, asking how she knows so little about her own grandmother's work. The hero, filled with anger, blames a strange family member for hiding the truth about her past. Karen Lin breaks down the harsh rules, revealing that surviving is the only path to passing this test. She gives them one final warning to quit, her eyes full of a smug challenge. Alice's confidence wavers as the sudden need for approval crushes her spirit. Belmont sees her fear and mocks her, asking if the future hero is already ready to give up. Alice snaps back with a blush, declaring she'd never give up, not even to a tiny demon. The principal gives a knowing smirk at their determination before the deadly trial finally begins. With grim determination, the two rivals get ready to slip on those legendary rings. Each one slips the artifact onto their finger, locking their destiny into this sudden battle to the death. Now staring each other down in the big hall, the big moment for their final judgment is here. Alice stared at the empty road, confused because nothing changed, and she foolishly wondered if they had already driven right past it. But Belmont feels a dark power waking up and knows something is coming from the ring. A dark purple surge of evil energy bursts from the relics, soaking the room in fear. The dark power swells into two huge, scary shapes that tower over them. Suddenly, dark energy strikes them down and plunges straight into both their bodies. Dark energy pours into Belmont, yet his face stays perfectly calm. A ghostly judge steps forward, promising to weigh every sin and secret wish deep inside his soul. Belmont just scoffed, not caring one bit about the ring demon trying to scare him. The judge bellows in anger at the young demon's boldness, but his fury weakens when he feels something as old as time itself inside the boy. A scary, dark shadow rises up behind the judge, revealing the real form of the Demon King. The ghostly judge shakes with fear as the true Demon King waits for its yes or no. With just one order, Belmont banishes the dark power, proving he has overcome the test within. The principal smiles with pride, knowing the legendary Ring of Demolition has finally given its seal of approval, while Alice screams in pain down the hall, still fighting her own dark inner monster. The ring whispers Alice's darkest fears, replaying the cruel words about how her family has disappointed her. Voices from her past whisper cruel jokes at her magic and push her toward a marriage she never wanted. The spectral judge appears as the voice of her most fearful worry, sounding exactly like a parent who never stops criticizing her. The principal watches with a smile, finding the hero's heir's inner struggle quite fun to watch. Alice falls down because the crazy attack on her mind has used up all her strength. A terrifying ghostly warrior bursts from her soul, standing ready to strike the final blow. But Belmont steps in and shoots a tiny blast of dark power to save his rival. The spectral warrior barely notices the weak attack, standing calm and unbothered. His blast failed to leave a single scratch, showing just how weak his powers have become. The principal sneers at the Demon King, telling him his weak power won't work in this place. The principal gives him a stern talk about the unwritten laws of the world, from revenge to unfair treatment. Alice fights the dark energy, shaking but refusing his help. Belmont throws out the rules and doubts the very reason the ring exists. He finally understands that if he doesn't become a hero, the darkness waiting for him will be much worse. Suddenly, the Demon King snatches the breath right out of the struggling hero's lungs. He grabs the ghost warrior's blade with his bare hand, stopping the deadly strike right before it lands. Belmont stands his ground, holding up a wall to keep the raging beast inside Alice from breaking through. Both the principal and the hero's heir stood frozen in shock as he stepped in. He laughs at the thought of being a hero, saying it's just a heavy job that no one asked him to take. The Demon King shouts that the only thing that matters now is keeping the girl in front of him safe. Alice could barely speak as her heart raced at his surprising words. She calls him an idiot while tears fill her eyes, completely overwhelmed by his sacrifice. He taps into an old force we know, with a bright golden mark glowing on his chest. The Demon King knows that feeling, for it is the legendary power of Yin and Yang. By joining their strength together, he gets ready to bring that forbidden technique back to life. A massive burst of blinding power explodes outward and instantly destroys the ghostly warrior. The whole council hall glows with the warm light left behind by their amazing power. Even the principal is so thrilled by the amazing show that he is clapping his hands with pure joy. She beamed with a happy grin as she told them they had both survived the dangerous challenge. Exhausted but victorious, the Demon King lifts the hero's heir, and their rivalry has finally changed into something more. Belmont lets out a long breath, tired but happy to have survived the tough test. But the soft moment breaks when Alice opens her eyes and finds herself still curled up in his arms. Her angry scream still rings out across the school grounds as she yells for him to let her go. But by the next day, the opening ceremony starts their fresh life at the new school. Belmont finds Lei again, and she tells him she's okay now that she's been kicked out of the exam. The loyal maid feels the heavy air and knows the academy is already filled with fighting. But Belmont notices something much more important she overlooked: his brand new school uniform. Leahy watches with a funny, serious face, trying to guess what big point her lord is trying to make. The Demon King snaps his gaze to a new arrival with a dramatic flair. A showy bunny girl strikes a pose and demands that everyone turn their gaze to her. A mysterious figure in a hood spots their target and points with clear intent. A new short-haired elf girl stands there, her eyes fixed on someone in the crowd. Belmont sees that the academy is full of people who could help him grow his Yin and Yang powers. He decides this is the only way to bring the demon clan back to life, even though Leahy is furious about it. To aid his quest, Leahy gives him a strange book from the clan elders. He is stunned to discover it's actually a very complete guide to dating within the interspecies. Leahy's face turns pink as he admits the book is his secret tool for getting stronger. Moved by her selfless act, the Demon King promises to train his hardest to protect his clan. Leahy vows to watch over him from the darkness as he starts his vital work. Now brimming with fresh determination, the Demon King steps into his very first day at the Hero Academy, fully ready to face whatever comes his way. Belmont walks through the academy, promising to make sure all of Leahy's hard work doesn't go to waste. He steps into his classroom, fully prepared to do anything for the Demon Clan. He tears away his own hope, ready to give up anything just to bring his clan back to life. He pushes the door open with all his heart, stepping into a brand new life. But when he makes his dramatic entrance, he finds the classroom filled with incredibly strong men. The students at Brai are so excited they're already fighting over who gets to greet the new demon first. He slams the door shut, shocked to find the academy's classes are split strictly by gender. The teacher's worst fears came true when the boys and girls only ever mixed during special activities. The Demon King's mind goes blank with shame because he never did any basic research. The teacher moves on to call Lester Field, the new class representative, up to give a speech. A student who looks a little too proud in his spotless white uniform stands up to talk to the class. Meet Lester, the son of an earl, who can't stop reminding everyone of his fancy title. The class bursts into whispers, amazed by his family's money and powerful magic. Lester drinks up the crowd's stare while secretly laughing at how shocked the common folks are that he's so important. Once he finished his short speech, the teacher waved the new class rep back to his seat. Walking away with a sneer, he tells his classmates that Alice is the only one worthy of being his rival. But then his mind shifts to the entrance exam, and his eyes settle on Belmont. His eyes burn with fury as he realizes Alice has been stained by the lowly demon clan. The arrogant noble sneers with a cruel grin and swears he will take his revenge. Belmont notices the hostility but isn't even bothered by his new rival's angry glare. Belmont can't help but wonder why that proud noble is glaring at him with such anger. He keeps Lehi's advice in mind, trying to smile to get along with his classmates. He listens to his faithful maid and decides to try it. His face twitches, trying hard to show a look he hasn't made in hundreds of years, and the Demon King knows exactly what he must do right now. He breaks into a grin so pure and unhinged it looks like a demon's, causing the noble heir to shrink back in total horror at the terrifying sight. Lester is totally confused, trying to figure out what kind of scary smile that is. That friendly wave is instantly twisted into a scary warning of death. While things get hotter inside, the academy day outside keeps on going just fine. As soon as Lester appears, the other nobles scramble to flatter him, desperate to earn his favor. But the proud heir has no time for their pitiful tries to charm him. He's still boiling mad, convinced he has to show these lowly folks what it means to be a leader. Lester decides he's had enough and resolves to put the demon brat in its place. The whole class holds its breath as the noble heir charges straight for his target. He steps right up to Belmont's face and demands to know why he was so rude. The Demon King is totally confused, having no clue what made the noble so angry. Lester finally drops his act and shouts at Belmont, demanding to know why he knows Lady Alice. Belmont still wears his scary grin and treats her like she's just an old friend. Lester takes this as a challenge and surges with power, ready to settle the score in a duel. Lester's eyes burn with rage as he dares the demon to a fight. A huge burst of summoning magic explodes and fills the whole classroom. Belmont watched the dramatic scene unfold, a sudden spark of recognition lighting up his eyes. The energy twists into a terrible beast made of shadow and fury. Lester can't stop bragging about his family's legendary summoning trick. The class is absolutely stunned, calling the young noble a once-in-a-generation genius, while the Demon King just stares in confusion, as if he has faced this terrifying beast before. The proud noble told Belmont to stay far away from Alice or he would make him pay dearly. Belmont simply ignores the danger and strolls right up to the giant monster to pet it. Lester screams in shock as his mighty weapon suddenly acts like a normal house pet. But Lester's calm front breaks when he panics and admits he can't control the beast. The wild chimera roars, ready to blow its full, crazy power right into the classroom. The Demon King remembers that the chimera is a legendary shape-shifting beast from his own clan. This old beast was so strong it could once smash a whole city wall with just one hit. During the Great War, just 5 of these terrifying machines were enough to wipe out an entire army of thousands. A noble's foolish magic call just dragged a deadly bomb right into a classroom full of students. Belmont stays calm and reaches out to the wild beast, telling it not to be scared. He talks to it like an old friend, offering comfort for the pain of being trapped by weaker magic. The chimera stands frozen in shock, its rage instantly crumbling into pure bewilderment. The whole class stares in amazement as the demon kid tames the untamable beast, leaving Lester completely lost. Lester realizes it's time to stand tall again and sends the beast right back to where it started. He frantically tries to remember how to call his summon, casting a spell to bind him. Magical chains burst into life, wrapping around the chimera to force it to stop fighting. The legendary beast just growls, its glowing eyes full of scorn for that weak magic. Lester's confidence crumbles when he sees his spell falling apart completely. The chimera lets out a furious roar and breaks the magic bonds as if they were made of glass. The proud noble watches in sheer terror as his own deadly weapon suddenly fights back. Suddenly, Belmont springs to life and blasts off a nearby wall with incredible speed. He jumps over the wild beast and gets ready to strike back. Suddenly, the Demon King snatches the chimera and crushes the out-of-control monster without a struggle. With just one hand, he holds back the wild beast's strength without any trouble. He then sends the legendary monster packing, shocking everyone. Belmont stands quiet and steady among the broken pieces, looking straight at the shocked noble. Lester can only stammer, frozen in shock as he tries to make sense of what just happened. The Demon King yells at him for treating such a fragile thing so roughly. The proud noble stands completely dumbfounded by this strange talk. With the chimera's dark shadow hovering over his back, Belmont stands tall to show he is in charge. He promises to set the beast free from its painful captivity. A dark mark burns in his eye as he gets ready to snap the spell. He sees his mark, the control core stuck deep inside the monster's throat. He gathers his strength, ready to break the device that controls the legendary beast. With one sharp hit, he blasts the chimera out of its chains. The proud noble stood frozen in silence, his entire understanding of the world broken by the terrifying strength of the demon. Just as everyone freezes in shock, a tiny meow breaks the silence and draws all eyes toward it. The scary weapon of mass destruction turned into a grumpy little kitten. Lester is instantly smitten and completely baffled by the legendary monster's true form. Belmont casually explains that this terrifying monster is just one of his old backyard pets. He scoops up the creature and insists that its soft, cuddly shape is by far the best one. Now set free, the Demon King takes the beast in and gives it a very special new name. But Lester won't be outshined, promising that his race to win Alice's heart is just getting started. Belmont tells the noble that women aren't trophies to be won by fighting. He then sneaks out his dating guide and insists that doing your homework is super important. The confused noble thinks that scandalous book is actually a powerful magic spellbook. Belmont coolly says he's been digging into what makes this place so smart lately. He asks his new pet for help, and suddenly a flash of red energy wraps around the tiny creature, marking a big change. Everyone gasped in shock as the tiny kitten melted and reshaped itself into a breathtaking catgirl. While Lehigh straightens up Belmont's room, he prays that the boy's very first day will go smoothly. She trips over a second, shockingly bold dating guide. But a quick flip shows it's really just the wholesome, all-ages version of the book. Belmont holds up his advanced textbook and declares it's time for an extra lesson. The age warning on the book tells us this is some seriously heavy-duty stuff. Over in another place, Alice drags Anne along on a mission while he teases her about what she really wants. Anne playfully vows to steal the handsome demon boy, which really annoys Alice. The flustered hero's heir insists she only wants to say thank you, but she can't do it by herself. Anne instantly spots her as a classic tsundere, seeing right through her excuses. They finally reach Belmont's classroom, ready to face the young demon. But the sight that greets Alice leaves her blushing and completely speechless. Belmont shows off some serious practical skills to a crowd that's so stunned they look like stone statues. Newt is blown away by how bold he is, while Alice is so embarrassed she can't handle it. Lester has changed completely and promises to follow his new big brother, Belmont, forever. Belmont spots the new arrivals and innocently asks Alice if she's there for his lesson too. A furious Alice shouts in denial, screaming at the creep for his disgusting show. His first day ends with all the boys loving him, while the girls absolutely hate him. The next day, Belmont walks into class, sure that everyone already knows what happened yesterday. Inside, Lester has set a new rule. Everyone has to say hi to their big brother. The door creaks open and the whole class leans forward, buzzing with excitement to see their new leader. As Belmont walks in, the whole room of muscular guys shouts, "Good morning, big bro." But the Demon King keeps walking past them without looking up, completely lost in his book. Lester and his team stand helplessly by, watching their big plan get completely overlooked. The proud young lord and his new friends stand frozen in shock as they are met with icy silence. His confused lackey demands an explanation, but Lester is already lost in thought. He chose to see his leader's silence not as an insult, but as a challenge to earn his respect. Lester realized those silly greetings weren't good enough for his awesome new big brother. The following morning, he kneels in his full armor to offer a grand greeting and prove his loyalty. Another student tries to give a formal military salute, but Belmont doesn't even flinch. Even a dramatic gangster-style bow doesn't get a reaction from the Demon King, who is too deep in his own thoughts to notice. In the cafeteria, Lester felt completely lost because everyone ignored all of his grand gestures. He gets lost in a spiral of panic, obsessing over every tiny mistake in his failed greetings. Meanwhile, Belmont calmly enjoys his meal, totally oblivious to the noble's inner turmoil. But all Belmont thinks about is how badly he needs to find someone to help him grow his power. He sighs in sorrow over Alice, his one female friend at the academy, who is now turning her back on him. While the hero fights elsewhere, her heir is so furious she's crushing her spoon in her hand. With a huge pile of plates around her, she angrily shoves food into her mouth just because Belmont exists. Suddenly, a hand smashes down on Belmont's table and shatters his focus. It's En, the cat girl, who smiles and gives the Demon King a nickname that feels like a memory. He recognizes her right away from that scandalous secret lesson. She skips all the small talk and gets straight to the point with a very direct offer. She leans in and whispers the one secret he thought was safe from everyone else. The Demon King is stunned, wondering how the stranger knows his secret magic. Lester hits the floor in shock as En gets cozy with his new big brother. He convinces himself that she must have been amazed by Belmont's deep knowledge. The Demon King nods quietly and lets her lead him anywhere she wants. But over in the cafeteria, a bull goes flying like a rocket after getting hit by a super angry hand. Alice suddenly jumps up, showing off her jealousy, so everyone can see it. She screams angrily, demanding to know what En plans to do with Belmont in the bright middle of the day. En just smirks, showing she knows he's asking about the student union and then invites Alice to come too. The hero's heir stood frozen, mouth agape, watching her big protective shout look foolish in the silence. Belmont glances back, puzzled by Alice's sudden and wild move. Alice is stuck in a knot of her own jealousy and can only grind her teeth as her anger boils over in silence. Alice gets so flustered she yells that she doesn't need anyone worrying about her before she storms away in a huff. Belmont and En keep walking ahead, leaving the angry heir far behind. From the shadows, a determined Lester watches his new idol walk away. The young heir promises to stick close to his big brother and learn everything he knows. Belmont stops his talk and asks straight up what En really wants from him. The cat girl grins, revealing she has a very specific plan for the Demon King. She confidently suggests they train their yin and yang together. The Demon King is shocked and demands to know how she found out his secret move. En casually tells everyone that the hero Arya created the magic to lock the first Demon King away. Belmont is blushing, realizing the legendary hero created that intimate spell just for him. En reveals she knows demons should be weak, but this one showed incredible power. She quickly figures out that his strength comes from the ancient balance of yin and yang. The Demon King panics because he knows that if she reveals his secret, he is completely ruined. But the cat girl suddenly reveals that there's a very special condition you must meet before you can use that technique. Belmont is completely in the dark, puzzled by what she might mean. She drops a bombshell by revealing that the user must be a virgin, a condition an incubus could never meet. En accuses him of draining exhausted Alice's life force with a crude, different technique. The Demon King lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding, glad his secret shame is still safe. He steadies himself and wonders why she would even mention that forbidden trick. En gives a sly grin to show she's all ready for the special moment. Her fingers start to glow with golden light as she shows she has no mercy left. With a wild, crazy smile on her face, En dives straight at the Demon King, her sharp claws ready to strike. Belmont just stands there, watching the surprise betrayal with zero emotion. From the dark, Lester sprints ahead, screaming a desperate warning to his big brother. In a sudden flash of feeling, the attacker's eyes lock with the targets and the protectors. The faithful noble lunges forward to throw himself in front of Belmont, blocking the deadly blow. Lester rushes to his idol's side, forgetting all about the danger he just escaped. Belmont waves his worry away with a calm smile, focusing instead on why his attacker struck. En lets out a frustrated scoff, grumbling that her fun was ruined by the interruption. She whispers that the Demon King might actually get lucky this time. En mocks him, daring to ask how long a small incubus can last in the academy. In one last bound, the cat girl vanishes into the city. In a dark, hidden room, a secret group watches everything happening at the academy. A clan member gets so mad that the evil kid is learning too fast. One person says a powerful family member helped the demon get this far. A member with glowing eyes shouts at them for talking in boring, confusing riddles. The first member just laughs and says the joke was well deserved. A glowing crystal ball shows the cafeteria, where Belmont's power is steadily rising. One council member mocked Alice for letting a demon join them, but the glowing-eyed figure slammed the table and demanded they show some respect. The dark figure brushed off the worry, then stood up to show everyone he was the council's leader. Student Council President Adonis Razith calmly tells the group that he's already sent someone to take care of it. While away, Belmont tells how he plans to restore his strength by practicing yin and yang with a woman. The map of the academy grounds shows that the boys and girls are kept apart. He sighs at the lack of chances, staring longingly at some pretty girls who might be interested. Belmont knows this mixed-gender training session is his one last golden chance. Lester and his crew stand shoulder to shoulder like a wall, promising to keep everyone at bay from their big brother. The Demon King, crushed by his too eager new minion, demands they stop, but Lester insists they must stand firm in this dangerous place. The noble heir frantically points at N, believing the cat girl is hiding to trap his hero. N watches from afar, her smug eyes locked on the Demon King. Belmont stays quiet and doesn't even flinch at the danger. He grabs Lester and tells him to back off so he can finally get moving. The noble totally misses the mark, thinking he's been chosen as the top helper when he's actually been rejected. Lester promises to stay loyal forever and even tries to copy his big brother's scary grin. Just as they think they're safe, a new challenger grabs Belmont's shoulder and ruins their moment. A red-haired student named Brian shouts at him, calling him an arrogant little demon. Lester freezes in terror as he spots the infamous upperclassman. Brian sneers that he's come to find the shameless demon who slipped into the academy. Belmont calmly points out that if he's a senior, he must have failed last year. Furious from the insult, Brian unleashes a super-powered punch straight into Belmont's face. Lester knows that spell, and he realizes the man above him is as strong as a true hero. The loyal noble screams a desperate warning for his big brother to dodge the attack. Brian smirks, sure his first hit will teach the demon a lesson, but his cocky grin vanishes instantly as he freezes in pure shock. Belmont easily grabs the magic-filled fist and brings the attack to a sudden stop. Suddenly, a new catgirl shows up, sitting right on the upperclassman's shoulder with a casual ease. She lectures the hot-tempered senior, wondering if he can ever have a day without making things difficult. Just as the lesson is about to begin, another student steps up to ask them to hush down. Brian just grins, curious about the little demon's shocking power. Lester nods to show the rumors are real, leaving Belmont totally confused. The loyal noble whispers that a secret plan to kill his big brother is already being carried out. He says Brian is a violent repeat offender whose strength matches that of a professional hero. Lester figures out that some big boss must be pulling the strings to get a hero's kid mixed up in this. The teacher calls everyone together and tells them it's time to start fighting demons in the forest. Suddenly, glowing green portals open up, waiting to whisk the students away to the training grounds. 2 teams will be dropped into random places to hunt for 4 hours, and the rules are simple. Lester loves the team-up rule because it lets him defend his idol. But just as he turns to look for his partner, his big brother has already disappeared into thin air. Meanwhile, the fiery boss and his catgirl partner step through their own portal. Brian tells his partner to stay out of his way because he has set Belmont as his target. The catgirl rolls her eyes and whispers that her partner is too loud. Just as they are about to step through the portal, Brian screams for her to get ready, but Belmont crashes right through it like a wrecking ball. He quickly takes hold of the catgirl's wrist, making his move to drag her along with him. The portal sweeps them away, leaving a shocked and alone Brian behind. Belmont and his new partner dive straight down toward the training grounds. They plummet from high above and vanish into the thick forest below. After crashing down hard, the grumpy catgirl snaps at him to figure out what he's really up to. Belmont acts calm and claims he only wants a quick private chat as he grabs a handhold. His bumpy landing leaves him in a tricky spot right next to his new partner. Without wasting a second, the Demon King starts checking her body like a doctor examines a patient. She gives a smug grin, hinting that she'll spill all the secrets of his private experiments to Alice. Her playful laugh stops dead as golden claws suddenly stretch out from her fingertips. The catgirl springs forward and shows that he has walked right into her deadly trap. Belmont's eyes narrow, completely unfazed by the sudden ambush. A huge stone golem bursts from the earth because of her trap, but she easily breaks it in half, feeling sad that it wasn't strong enough. As he stands up, Belmont starts a sudden lesson about how golems work. The catgirl spun around, totally confused by his weird lesson. He keeps lecturing, insisting that tearing down the body while ignoring its heart is useless. As if on cue, the broken golems suddenly snapped back together, circling the totally unimpressed catgirl. Her confident smirk melts away into shock as she realizes her own trap has turned back on her. Before she can move, a giant stone beast grabs her and lifts her into the air. She burns with anger while stuck in its hold, knowing she was caught off guard and can't break free. Belmont says that spotting the core takes such sharp magic sense that you absolutely need a partner to help you. The captured catgirl fights back in a huff, clearly annoyed that he's making her do what he wants. She shouts that she's running out of magic, which makes his whole plan feel useless. But the Demon King just grabs her and says his eyes are all he needs to see through them. A bright golden mark suddenly glows in his eye as he brings his legendary mystic eyes to life. His strange eyes show that the golem is weak because its secret core hides right in its armpit. With one crushing blow, he breaks the golem's giant stone arm. He didn't hesitate for a second. He just flew right at the next person. The second golem towers above him, yet the Demon King has already raised his weapon to strike. His special sight finds the next core, which is conveniently sitting right at its waist. All it takes is one fast kick to completely destroy the second monster and its core. He lands right on his feet, standing tall in the middle of the broken pieces from the enemies he just beat. He stands up, showing that his healing magic is finally under his full control. Just as the cat girl plummets, he leaps in and catches her with perfect ease. She looks on in shock at his amazing power and skill, and starts to doubt everything she ever thought she knew about him. Belmont admitted his mana was running low, though his mystic eyes still glowed. She looks at him with doubt, asking why he would save someone sent to kill him. He calmly points out that her attempt to kill him was way too obvious to be real. With his mystical eyes, he has already seen right through her whole plan, and his special sight shows her every little detail she didn't expect. He carries his flustered partner along, a smug grin on his face. The Demon King's steady face finally cracks as the stunning view around him completely overwhelms him. Deep in the woods, another student is having a terrible day. Brian, furious that the little demon tricked him, finally sees right through the boy's plan. With defeated golems all around him, the forgotten upperclassman swears he will make Belmont pay. The cat girl rushes to wake the Demon King, who suddenly collapsed, only to find his legendary absolute sight has turned on, a power no one else in his bloodline possesses. This power lets him look past the outside and see the true soul, mana, and inner workings of anyone he watches. But a big problem is that he can't recognize faces anymore. With his magic drained, his mighty power shrinks down to just seeing through walls. The cat girl sighs in relief as he finally wakes up from his long sleep. But his new vision gives him a much clearer view of his partner. The old Demon King is totally crushed by the fight and bleeding from his nose like crazy. His partner stood frozen in shock, completely baffled by his wild response. She laughs at his silly title and wonders how a sight like that could scare him so much. Belmont wipes away the signs of his magic, turns off his powers, and promises to be more careful next time. But his partner leans in too close, driven by his odd behavior, to find out what's really going on. She introduces herself as Rostana and notices a strange smell that tells her he isn't just a normal incubus. Rastana then questions whether he understands why everyone is trying to get him kicked out of the academy. She laughs off his plain reply, showing everyone that the real boss has been in control this whole time. The cat girl drops a shock. The one pulling the strings to ruin him is none other than Alice Rozeth. The Demon King stands frozen in shock, unable to believe his rival would go that far. Rostana tells the story of how all the races joined forces to fight a single enemy on this continent. But once the fighting stopped, humans grabbed almost all the land, which caused other races to be treated unfairly everywhere. This new world order drove other races out with cruelty and kept them down. Rostana tells how people now look down on their old friends, calling them lowly races. She remembers their cruel insults, saying that the oppressed should be thankful even for the worst treatment they receive. The cat girl shows how that pride has made the other races hate her for many years. She says that Alice's choice to invite a demon to the academy is the perfect reason to start a new war. So, humanity's only hope now is to get rid of Belmont before everything falls into total chaos. Rostana wonders why he doesn't care, but the Demon King just laughs and calls her whole theory silly. He laughs it off, totally unimpressed by her boring and predictable guess about what went wrong. The Demon King then shows that he sees the hero's heir in a completely different light. He remembers that Alice really wants to stop the fighting between people of different races and thinks it's a shame everyone misunderstands her. Belmont flips the script and claims Rostana actually wanted to start the war against humans using him. Rostana is completely caught off guard, with a single tear rolling down her cheek. She easily brushes off his accusation and suggests they end their training, but their talk is abruptly cut short when Brian dives down from above. The angry boss man shouts that they won't leave, using his magic to trap them right there. A mighty force throws them down and pins them to the ground. Belmont soon realizes that the attacker is bending gravity to their will. Brian gloated, vowing to make this fast as revenge for being ditched. Instead of cowering in fear, Rostana flashes a very confident grin full of sharp teeth. The upperman is so confused that he thinks her strength is actually fear making her crazy. She fires back with a classic taunt, mocking his bravado with a very personal insult. Enraged, Brian roars that her mocking words have just sealed her doom. Held fast by his gravity magic, the two can only watch as the upperclassman gets closer. Belmont's keen eyes catch the hidden item Rostana is holding tight. He knows that Vile is the legendary and dangerous dragon saliva without a doubt. Their attacker,